Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Sweeping changes could be coming to college basketball. A new report from a commission led by Condoleeza Rice says the NCAA needs to undergo drastic changes.
The current sad state of college basketball did not appear overnight, and it will not be repaired quickly.
Ahead, we'll look at what that means for Indiana's favorite pastime. The opioid epidemic affects almost everyone in the state, but for some Hoosier medical professionals, it puts their lives at risk.
Hospitals are the most violent place to work, except policemen, firemen, those first responders.
Coming up, how a crackdown on prescription drugs can put doctors in danger. And one of the biggest collections of Indy 500 pace cars in the world is up on the auction block. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Barbara Brozier. Joe Wren is off this week. Changes could be coming to basketball after the NCAA's Commission on College Basketball recommended reforms this week to restore what they call credibility and fairness to the game. Former Secretary of State Condoleeza Rice is the head of the review commission. In the group's nearly 60-page report, it writes that corruption and deception, quote, threaten the very survival of the college game as we know it. It's especially big news right here in Indiana, where basketball is at the heart of so many communities. But the changes might not be as significant as they sound. One of the biggest changes the commission proposed this week is separating the paths for collegiate and professional basketball. It wants to do away with the one-and-done rule, which requires players to be 1 year removed from high school before going to the NBA. The commissioners say elite players shouldn't be forced to attend college.
These uniquely talented elite players are the focus of agents and apparel companies and investment advisors and college coaches and others who seek to profit from their skills.
The commission also wants the NCAA to change its penalty structure and establish a new panel to investigate potential rules violations. J.R. Holmes is the athletic director and head basketball coach at Bloomington South High School. He thinks some of the recommendations could be good for the sport, like eliminating one and done. He says the pressure created by the college basketball system trickles down to some high school athletes.
We have kids now who leave after their junior year to go to college. So they're foregoing their senior year. It's almost like a 3 and done, and I think it hurts the high school game.
But many of the commission's proposals aren't new ideas or even reforms the NCAA has the power to make.
The NBA has to decide those things, and frankly, the idea of making freshmen ineligible as kind of a retaliatory measure for not changing the one-and-done rule doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
That has some feeling underwhelmed by this week's report and a bit cynical about whether the problems plaguing the game will be addressed anytime soon.
I think that the NCAA needs to be honest with itself that it's not 1954 anymore, and that the very nature of college basketball, the nature of talent coming through college basketball has changed. And there's nothing wrong with that. We saw the Olympics go through this about 30 years ago, where they decided, the amateur model isn't working. Let's move to a model where athletes can get compensated fairly for what their market value is.
It's unclear how soon the NCAA Board of Governors could decide whether to adopt any of the recommendations.
These uniquely talented elite players.
And joining us now to talk more about these recommendations is Nathaniel Groh, who's an associate professor at IU's Kelley School of Business and specializes a bit in these labor issues dealing with the sports industry. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So to start off, long list of recommendations. What's your take? Is this actually going to change anything with college basketball?
I think it's going to change things more on the margins rather than fundamentally resolve the current scandals involving, paying players under the table and whatnot. Some of the recommendations are going to have big impacts for the student athletes who are currently, forced to not be able to come back to college if they enter the draft, that sort of thing. But in terms of eliminating the motivation to pay players, I don't think that this changes a whole lot in that regard.
You mentioned the money, and that's one big thing that kind of shook college basketball up with these FBI investigations. Is there anything you think this commission needs to do to deal with the money aspect? Because these recommendations don't touch a lot on that.
Yeah, they don't. And I think it's just the tough position that the college sports are in right now, that they want to maintain this idea of amateurism and they don't want to move to a pay-for-play model, but at the same time, they're dealing with all these scandals that kind of result from that. And I just don't think that this commission was ready to step fully into that, a recommendation of, hey, let's pay these college athletes, what they might be worth.
You mentioned the issue of pay to play, and one thing that the commission said we're not going to touch right now is this issue of universities profiting greatly off of the likeness of some of these all-star athletes. Do you think that's something that the NCAA or this commission is going to have to take on eventually?
Eventually, yes. I think that makes the most sense in a lot of ways as a compromise solution. Let athletes market themselves outside the sport, but not have the schools pay them directly. That would balance some of this, some of the perceived inequities right now and help address some of the pressures that are causing all this alleged corruption.
One quick question, is it just basketball that we're talking about where there are these issues, or is this more widespread?
I think it's football too, for sure, anywhere that there's big money at stake. Basketball has some unique elements that kind of breed this type of corruption, but I think it's endemic to everywhere, probably.
Thank you so much for giving us your insight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And now for headlines, we go over to Lindsay Wright, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Barbara. The University of Notre Dame is taking back the honorary degree it awarded to Bill Cosby nearly 30 years ago. The school announced its decision after a jury found Cosby guilty of drugging and molesting a Temple University employee. In a statement, the school's president says he was troubled by what he calls serious public accusations made by multiple women against Cosby, but he wanted to wait for the verdict before rescinding the degree. Global tech firm Infosys plans to create 3,000 jobs at its North American Training Center based in Indianapolis. Vice President Mike Pence attended the announcement Thursday and spoke about the long-term impact the jobs will have on the state.
Once again, Indiana is proving this is a new day in America. It's a new day for opportunities for working families and small businesses.
Infosys plans to break ground on the training center this year. It'll be located on the site of the former Indianapolis International Airport passenger terminal. An Indiana teen wants the state's highest court to weigh in on a case that questions what avenues juveniles have if they think their cases weren't handled properly. As Barbara Brosier reports, the case stems from a project aimed at ensuring kids don't end up in juvenile detention when they shouldn't.
Hundreds of high school students watched as the Indiana Supreme Court heard arguments in a juvenile case at Owen Valley High School. And it's one that could be relevant to some of them. Kids who go through court don't have the same options for relief as adults in the criminal justice system. When adults plead guilty, they can't file an appeal. This case questions whether that rule also applies to juveniles. In this situation, the teen admitted to a count of false informing at his initial hearing, so a judge sent him to a juvenile detention center. But the teen is challenging that admission because his current attorney says the lawyer representing him at the time didn't advise the juvenile or his parents of his rights, didn't explain any alternatives, and was ineffective in providing counsel.
We don't allow counsel to waive that for adult defendants, at least with respect to several of the rights. Why would we allow it for children who arguably understand less about the process?
The teen wants the Supreme Court to allow him to appeal the Court of Appeals decision, which says the case should go back to trial court, where the teen can file a motion for relief. His attorney argues that process can be lengthy.
Where there's clear error on the record, it just doesn't make sense to make a juvenile go back and do that process.
It sounds like everybody in the room had an attorney, right? Because that's one of the things that I want to find out and make sure that you guys know and understand that you had an attorney.
The case came out of the Indiana Juvenile Defense Project, which educates kids who are in detention centers about their legal rights. Attorneys started providing legal orientations for kids in the Department of Correction last year and have since found at least 7 who made it here without having an attorney at some point in their case when they should have.
When I meet with these kids, I'm kind of shocked to sometimes find that kids from some counties are ending up there based on charges over marijuana.
And the case before the state Supreme Court highlights those challenges with Indiana's juvenile justice system. The teen was accused of false informing and delinquency after he gave a different name and age to police and hospital staff while he was being treated for attempting suicide. His attorney argues that doesn't even fit the state's definition of false informing, and the teen is spending time in a state facility for something that would have been a misdemeanor if committed by an adult.
If he were an adult, and he was just a few months shy of being an adult, if he were an adult, he might get, I think, 60 days, 180 days.
She says this is a clear case where the teen's legal rights weren't fulfilled. That's now up to the Indiana Supreme Court to decide. There's no timeline for a decision. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
Indiana University leaders are preparing for the second phase of the university's effort to tackle the state's addiction crisis. President Michael McRobbie announced in October IU would partner with the state and invest $50 million to tackle the opioid epidemic as part of the university's Grand Challenges initiative. School officials say they're already learning from the projects.
So we have held many listening sessions of local conversations, 2 scoping reviews. In another week, we'll be holding an ideas lab so that we can think differently about superordinate goals associated with how we tackle this addiction crisis.
16 projects launched in January as part of the first phase of the initiative, delving into several different topics, including research and policy analysis. Applications for phase 2 projects are due at the end of June. Barbara?
Certainly something we're going to keep our eyes on as
Definitely.
those projects develop.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. The chancellor of Purdue Global says the online university makes a college education accessible to more people, but critics say it tarnishes the Purdue name. And some healthcare groups are requiring self-defense classes for their employees. It's in response to a jump in violence in doctors' offices and hospitals. What's to blame for the increase? Those stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
$10,000.
15? 15, you think?
20, 21,000?
600.
20. 18.5.
24.
It's at least 40.
Look at it.
4,500,000.
650.
20.
650.
This textile would be worth about $500,000.
$500,000?
No way.
I knew it's just a blanket.
Laying on the back of a chair. Well, sir, you have a national treasure.
Wow.
A national treasure. Congratulations.
I can't believe this.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Purdue University Global officially opened enrollment at the beginning of the month. The institution was formerly known as Kaplan University. Purdue announced its plans to take over Kaplan about a year ago, and a number of faculty members were not happy about it. Hundreds even signed a petition in hopes of stopping the deal. Lindsay Wright sat down with Purdue University Global Chancellor Betty Vanden Bosch. The former Kaplan University president says school leaders are looking toward the future.
And this has to be a really exciting time for you because we're in April. The website enrollment is open. Have you gotten off to a really smooth start?
You know, it's been terrific, just terrific, because of course we all had to have new email addresses, we've got a new website, and there's always a little bit of trepidation. Everything has been smooth as silk. Once we knew that the Higher Learning Commission was going to meet with us in February, or meet about us in February, then we started to make better plans. And so we had from the end of February until the beginning of April to really make it all come together.
It's about 30,000 students who were Kaplan students who are transferring over to Purdue Global.
That's right.
And how do you ensure for those students that it is a seamless process?
Well, we've done it. We sent them messages as things were happening. I've spent lots and lots of time sending them notes, talking on video, obviously, because our students are all over the country. And everything moved across just as it should have been. So our students, I think, are very comfortable and very happy to go.
This deal was obviously a very controversial one. You know, a lot of Purdue faculty members spoke out saying that this could end up harming the Purdue degree, giving it less value. The deal is done now. How do you move past that? How do you move forward?
You know, we are very excited because we have had inquiries from 500 people, not all faculty, obviously, staff and faculty on the Purdue campus about taking courses at Purdue University Global, doing degrees at Global. I don't know that all 500 of them will end up joining us, but those students will tell the story. They'll tell the story about what it's like to get a degree at Purdue Global for the Purdue system.
I have heard some concern from people saying, you know, this isn't opening any new door because Kaplan already existed. So can you explain, you know, how will this down the road create new avenues?
So yes, Kaplan existed. And we believe that being part of the Purdue system will open doors because of the relationships that Purdue has with employers, with the community. Of course, that's going to be helpful to giving people insight into what Purdue University Global offers.
Why do you think it's so important at this, you know, time period to hone in on adult learners? That seems like that's been the whole goal with this and the focus. Why is that of so much importance right now?
We have, in the state of Indiana, 750,000 people who have some university education. All of them probably started thinking they wanted to complete their degrees. And our universities focused on typical university students, 18 to 24-year-olds, have different objectives. The students are different. And when you're teaching folks who have life and work experience, the way that you teach them is different. What they bring to the classroom is different. They have real experiences that can be used in the classroom to build understanding for all the students in a class. So the way that we structure our courses, the things we do in the classroom, the way that we assess students is very focused on what works for the adult learner.
Vanden Bosch says Purdue will help the online school move forward with its mission to help adult learners. But she says Purdue Global will also help Purdue University enhance its land grant mission by expanding education access to a group that needs it. The indirect effects of the opioid epidemic are far-reaching. The healthcare sector, where opioid medications are often widely available, is experiencing an uptick in violence. A man in northern Indiana killed a doctor last summer who refused to prescribe an opioid medication to his wife. As Miranda Fulmore reports, hospitals and doctors' offices across the country are taking steps to protect their employees and their patients.
Every month, employees of Greene County General Hospital gather into this space. They're learning how to defend themselves in violent situations.
We're not here to hurt these people. We're not here to hurt each other. The first part of it is actually taking care of yourself, making sure that you're in the right place, in the right frame of mind.
Officer Woodall started the program in 2014. For half the day, participants learned how to talk to people, including how to keep them calm.
The favorite phrase that everybody loves to say is calm down. That absolutely sets people off because a lot of times we don't know these people. It is, somebody's coming in off the street needing assistance. It's an emergency to them. So us to tell them they need to calm down is an aggravating. It's a trigger word that sets them off more.
Instead, the program suggests you should ask questions that unplug the power struggle and show that you're listening, like, why are you upset and what do you wish to achieve? The training was originally voluntary, but the hospital started requiring it as the opioid crisis reached epidemic proportions and the street value of opioids skyrocketed.
Several years back, they've changed the standards by what you can prescribe. And that's what a lot of these people don't understand is they've started putting more restrictions on doctors on what they can prescribe. And I think that is one of the big areas of what the issue is.
Health officials say engaging with people who are addicted to opioids is a statewide concern. It doesn't matter if you're at a small rural hospital or a larger level 1 trauma center like Riley Hospital in Indianapolis.
I think, the data says very clearly that hospitals are the most violent place to work, except policemen, firemen, those first responders.
Cox says if you look back as recently as the last decade, that wouldn't have been the case.
There are a lot of things in society that I think are magnified by the opioid crisis in America. I think, the drug-seeking behavior, some of the violence that we do see when someone cannot get those medications. And so we're trying to make it better by clamping down on that.
National numbers by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration show violence against healthcare providers nearly doubled between 2012 and 2014. Cox says hospitals can take extra precautions. Riley Hospital, for example, requires everyone to pass through a body scanner. But that's not something small rural hospitals can necessarily afford. Greene County's solution is to have at least one armed security guard on duty at all times.
Until a couple years ago, we didn't have security or any able-bodied people that could help us in situations, especially at night. And coming from someone who worked nights 18 years, it is scary if you're the only person with someone's out of control here.
Raines has taken the safety class twice. She says the hospital's increased focus on security is working. In 2015, the hospital reported 150 incidents where outside law enforcement was called. That dropped to 50 in 2017.
We do not like to use restraints, and we hardly ever do, but it has also decreased by half in those last 2 years because our staff are better capable of taking care of those escalated situations.
The second half of the program focuses on physical training. Employees practice hands-on exercises like breaking free if someone grabs them, pulls their hair, or even puts them in a headlock. And hospital employees are not the only ones benefiting from the training.
If we're afraid to take care of somebody, then obviously you're not going to get the best care. So I do believe that this program has really helped increase the confidence and awareness that we as an organization and our administration and our board wants us to be safe here.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Miranda Fulmore.
Well, if you're a car enthusiast, wait until you see this. The most complete privately owned collection of Indy 500 Corvette pace cars is headed to auction. A Fort Wayne resident, Keith Bussey, is offering up 16 pace cars at auction in Indy next month.
I always said someday when I grow up, I'm going to buy a Corvette. It's America's sports car, America's only sports car, and I'm going to own one. And lo and behold, one begat two, and two begat four, and four begat eight, and eight begat 16, and 16, 32, and 32. At one point in time, I had 60-some. I started collecting these in the early 80s. It's been 30-some years. It took a lot of time to assemble, years to assemble this collection, a lot of hours of work. They only produced 3 of these for the track. The other 2 that I know that were authorized were one to Roger Penske and one to me. I said to myself, geez, I think I made the wrong decision, but I have so many cars that aren't on display in here that it meant I had to grow the building or build another building. I think this collection could bring $1.5 million, $2 million. So all that money will be used for charitable purposes, for the Kidney Foundation, for the Cancer Society, for college education, help support universities in Northeast Indiana, things of that nature. So the money's all going for good causes.
Bussey hopes to sell the collection as one large lot, but if not, we'll auction them off individually. You'll be able to see this slice of Hoosier history at the Mecum Spring Classic Auction at the Indiana State Fairgrounds from May 15th to May 18th. Well, that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.